is about to bring you into a good land. Make sure you don't forget God, your God.
Welcome back to Teaching Through the Bible as we continue through the 10 words. So, if we look at the 10 words, Deuteronomy chapter 5, this time we've just gone over, you shall not murder. This time we're going to move ahead to, and you shall not commit adultery. So, again, seems pretty straightforward, but what have we been seeing throughout each of these as we look further on in Deuteronomy, as it gives more examples, more details, kind of fleshes out what these commands mean. This is a bullet point that's a prime example of a bigger category. So, you might have if that dot right there, if that represents do not commit adultery, what is the group that it's in? What are some other examples that might be in there? We're going to see those. Now, of course, these examples, and this will go for other ones too, but as you read through this section in Deuteronomy a little later on, then you may see some that you're like, what on earth? Well, this just seems so out there. Don't forget, totally different culture, different time. There may be examples here and things that they may be issues addressing their situation that aren't as particular to our culture, and there may be things particular in our culture that aren't as related to theirs. So if we look at Deuteronomy 22 verse 9 and then going through into 23, we see a number of commands that fit in this group, that fit in this category, of which, and you shall not commit adultery, is a prime example. So, just right off the bat, you shall not sow your vineyard with two kinds of seed, lest the whole yield be forfeited, the crop that you have sown and the yield of the vineyard. So, thinking about seeds. So I got this little container here, got some sunflower kernels, take these seeds, put some of those in there, and then some cilantro seeds, very different seed. Some of those in there, and it's a very different kind of thing. And now they're all mixed together. What's the problem? Did I just, if I go plant these, is that a sin? What's the issue with this? You have another command right after that. It says, plow with an ox and a donkey together. Don't wear two clothes. Wear clothes of wool and linen mixed together, two kinds of material mixed together, right? So this shirt is 88% polyester and 12% spandex. So is it sinful to have this shirt? This is going to end up making sense at the end of the video. You might have an idea already, since we've already kind of talked about some stuff leading into this as to what this relates to, but we'll come back to it at the end of the video to explain that. Now, as we get into this video though, heads up, if you have little ears around, it's not PG. We're going to be talking about stuff because of the nature of the command, so just a heads up for that. Moving into that, we have a number of things that are related to, but not don't commit adultery, right? They're not necessarily committing adultery, all of them, but there are also sins that are also in that group. So we have here punishment for lying about a wife's faithfulness sexually. So, if she hasn't been faithful, well, that's a big deal, and so a guy can bring that up, and that's actually can be a reason for divorce. But what if he's lying? What if he's doing this as an out because he himself is being unfaithful in some way? Well, then there's consequences for that as well. So it's not a one-way thing, because if she is being unfaithful, if he's telling the truth, then that's serious, and actually the penalty is death. Now, for him though, it's not. And so we can ask, is this justice? If it's a lot of times, if someone lies And we saw this already in some other verses. If someone lies, then the punishment goes back onto them that they were trying to get on someone else. But here, I think maybe the difference is he's not really necessarily trying to get her the punishment of death. That does end up being the punishment, but what he's probably trying to do is divorce her and have a legitimate reason to do that. And so his punishment isn't that he dies, it's that actually, no, you don't get the easy way out, bud. You actually have to stay married to her, and you are never allowed to divorce her. You're stuck with her, whether you like it or not, and you're going to continue to provide for her. Like, this is good for her in the sense that she needs someone to provide for her, because it's really easy to forget in our current day culture, women weren't able to just go out and get a job and provide for themselves in the same way they can today. They generally needed a husband, or they would be living with their parents in order to provide for them. And so if his punishment was death, that kind of screws her over, because now she's like, okay, well, what do I do? How am I going to survive? So his punishment is not death, it's you continue to provide for her and you can never get out of this. And it says, never, you can never divorce her. Is that maybe even if she is unfaithful later on? Like, he's committed to her, the end. So he tried to get out of it illegitimately, and now it's like, no, you're never going to get out of it. So even though it can at first sound like, wait, this doesn't seem like it's very even, it's actually addressing more the root cause of what's going on there. The heart issue, that he's trying to get out of this relationship, and he's now permanently in it, and can't use any excuse to get out and divorce like he was trying to do illegitimately. And so we see that there. We see a number of other things continue to talk about. In some cases, it is adultery. In other cases, it's not. Adultery is not if people are not married. Adultery is when people are married but not to each other who are involved. And so in those cases, a lot of times the result is death. And like we just saw in this last example, death is the result, the punishment, if you're being unfaithful, if you are having sex outside of marriage. But there's some examples that give us some caveats here. So, for example, if he's married, she's married, they're not married to each other, and he forces himself on her, then he'll die. She won't. She's protected. And they have examples of, well, if they did it, if it was consensual, they both die. But if it wasn't necessarily consensual, and they assume situations where, well, maybe we don't really know, we're going to assume it was not, and he dies, she doesn't. So she's protected. She's still able to be with who her husband is, who's this other person kind of to the side of the picture that's still going to be there, still going to be able to provide for her. This other guy, he dies. But what if it's not a married kind of situation? What if it's not that she already has a husband and now he's doing this to her? What if she's single? Well, it actually gives another different kind of twist to it. So it says now he has to marry her, which you read that and you say, wait, hold on. If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, because betrothed, like engaged, except much more serious, basically counted as marriage, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are found, then the man who lay with her shall give to the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has violated her. He may not divorce her all his days. So that, in modern day, may sound absolutely crazy. Like, how is this a punishment? But again, let's think about the culture, what's going on here, what this is actually addressing. Because, and we actually know from context, like when we look back in Exodus, I think Exodus 22 talks about this as well and gives us a little more context, that he was required to marry her at that point. But that's a one-way situation. We have two parties, right? We have the man who has done this and the woman in her family. And he doesn't have a choice now. He's committed. He has to marry her. But on this side, there is a choice. In fact, on this side, she doesn't have to get married to this guy. So she actually now gets to choose. Okay, her side's deciding, is this going to be a marriage or is this guy out of the picture? But either way, he's paying this price. He's paying the money, kind of like this bride price. He's got to pay that as if he's marrying her, whether she ends up marrying him or not. He's got that commitment. And if he doesn't marry her, well, that's just more money for her family, for her provision, taking care of her, which will be really important because if he's done that to her, now in that culture, a lot less likely someone else wants to marry her. And so she is more likely to be single the rest of her life, which is a huge problem because, again, how is she going to be provided for? For a time, it may be her parents. Maybe her dad provides for her, but at some point, that's going to become harder and harder to be the case. So it's very advantageous in some ways just for her livelihood to be married, and that's the most likely person to be married to her because, again, a lot of other people, oh, yeah, that happened back then. I don't really want to be part of that. I don't really want to be with her because of what he did. And that sucks, but that was the reality back then. So she can marry him, and then she has that provision. She's taken care of, and notice that at the very end, he may not divorce her all his days. He is stuck with her. So he did not want commitment. Okay, because how did marriages happen back then? The arranged marriages. This guy, if he wants to marry her, he can just go talk to the dad. Chances are they can make an arrangement and she'll be married to him. But he didn't do that. He did this instead. So he does not want commitment. And now the punishment is actually, okay, you're trying to avoid commitment. You got it all the rest of your days, bud. You will not be able to use any excuse to get out of it. Normally there were examples where you could get divorced. There were reasons for that, but you are not going to be able to use those. You are with her no matter what. It's the opposite of no fault divorce, right? Today, people can get divorced for any reason. He couldn't get divorced for any reason. So she's provided for the remainder of her days, no exceptions. But also, it was possible to just say, no, that's not going to happen. Actually, the father could say, no, that is not going to end well, and the father could actually say, no, that marriage is not happening. But thanks for the money, right? So he still had to pay for that. Pay as if he was, going to go through with a marriage and give the bride price, but not get the bride. So the power comes all onto the woman's side, because it's her side that gets to decide, is this marriage going to happen? Which is going to be more advantageous for her. She gets to decide which way. Her side is choosing, okay, is she getting married? Is she not getting married? Either way, they get the money. And not only that, but if he can't divorce her for anything, now she has the power in the relationship. So it was very advantageous for as much on the male side, typically in this culture, because the man could provide for himself, and he provided for his wife. The wife, it wasn't the same. So the wife really needed to be married. The husband didn't really need to be married to the same degree. So when it comes to divorce, maybe the wife could divorce the husband, but not really, not economically. Whereas the husband, he shouldn't, hold that over her, but theoretically he could just, well, you better watch out, or, I'll divorce you. And could be a real danger there. And so he kind of had that power over her in that culture. But now, if he's not allowed to divorce her all his days, all right, well, you just lost that. And now she has the power on her side, because no matter what she does, he can't divorce her. So now the power has shifted over to her side. So these rules at first it's like, whoa, wait a second, she has to like get married to him. Like, well, if we really look through at the cultural setting here, it's actually just shifting all the power over to her side, and he's just going to have to go along with whatever her side decides. Uh, is he going to get married? Is he not going to get married to her? Not his call anymore. Is he going to stay married or not? Not his call anymore. Like, he doesn't get to call the shots anymore on any of this. So he was trying to have no commitment, and now he is 100% committed. Can't do anything about it. So that's the punishment for him, which probably he would say, you know what, just go ahead. I'd rather have the death penalty. But nope, don't get to have that. That's not in the cards for him. We actually see how men thought about a really committed marriage in the New Testament when Jesus says basically shouldn't divorce for anything other than adultery. And the disciples, when they hear him say this, their response is, why would we get married then? Like we may as well not get married if we're not allowed to just divorce our wives. Like, we may as well not get married if you got to actually stay committed. Like, that's the mindset they had. And so here, this guy, he's got that mindset. It's like, well, now you're going to have to learn to get committed, because now you are not allowed to divorce her for anything, and you're going to be providing for her. You are going to have to take care of her like you should have been in the first place, and you're going to have to be committed like you should have been in the first place. So he could have gone to the father, had a marriage set up. He didn't do that. He went this other way about it. They shouldn't have done, and these are the consequences. So that's kind of a way of looking at this that maybe takes a little more thought and have to get a little deeper into it, understand that culture, but is really helpful in unpacking what's going on with these commands and with these particular punishments. And I said we get back to, at the end, what's this all about? With the seeds, with different kinds of fabric and clothing. It's really talking about being unequally yoked. It's talking about marrying someone who's not part of God's people. So we talked about this at another point back in Exodus when it also mentioned something related to these. And I said that it was about being with people who you're a believer and you're with someone who's outside of that covenant community. Inside God's people, outside of God's people. Well, here, this is saying you can't be married to an unbeliever, which Paul reiterates in 1 Corinthians. He also talks about how when in these laws it says that you don't muzzle an ox. Well, he says, well, that's sure, but that's the big point is pay people what they're owed, right? So there's, even in the Old Testament, Paul sees in the Old Testament there are these laws, and they actually have more application than just narrowly what you see right there. And that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. That these two unlike kinds should not be combined together. And so that's why it's in this group with all these things on sexual related commands. Don't marry someone who's outside of God's covenant people. So that's where that's coming from. Hopefully that makes a little more sense now, and they get visuals. It's really cool in the Old Testament, lots of commands where you have these illustrations, these visual illustrations, where people can actually see these things and understand at a visual level what are they supposed to be doing and not doing. So that's really cool. The last thing I want to mention, tie in with Jesus here. It says this really weird command about if you have crushed testicles, you can't go into the tabernacle. That's because it's saying you have to be full and complete, and no one really is ultimately, and that's why we all need Jesus. So it's showing them that they can't have any imperfection when you go before God, and that's why Jesus came, so he could be that person to come before the Father without any imperfection. Thank you for watching that video. I hope that it helped you learn a little bit more about the Bible today. And if you'd like to continue to learn more about the Bible, then we have plenty of other videos on the channel. And if this has been helpful for you, then you can always let me know by subscribing to the channel. And hopefully I'll be able to continue to help you learn even more about God's Word. Thanks.